This premium level suite at the Park Hyatt in London would normally cost $6,000 for 2 nights, and I paid literally $0 for it. No sketchy travel hacks or weird websites, just 60,000 Hyatt points and a system that I've used dozens of times, which has saved me over $40,000 in the last year alone on premium hotel upgrades. And in today's video, I want to show you this exact system, break down the 5 key steps that you need to know so the next time you're taking a trip, you don't settle for mediocre rooms, but you also don't overpay and waste your money on suites like this. Let's dive in. If you don't know me, my name is Eli Vicenda, aka Eli the Travel Guy, and I've helped thousands of entrepreneurs unlock premium level travel by maximizing credit card points, airline miles, and loyalty programs so they can get the travel they want with less money out of pocket. So the first step as we dive into this is going to be to unlock premium level elite status. Now, specifically, this has to happen with one of the major 3 hotel brands. There is a 4th, but the 3 major ones we're going to focus on today are Hyatt, Marriott, and Hilton. The 4th one that I'm mentioning would be IHG. Now, diving into these 3 major programs and their different status levels, this is a whole deep dive, but the high level is that you want to be getting to the top level of status. Now, one caveat to that is with Marriott, there is a top level of status that's pretty easily attainable, and there's one more above that called Ambassador. If you really spend a lot of money on hotels and you travel a ton, you can go for Ambassador, but if not, I'm gonna recommend that you go for Titanium. So why Titanium? Well, Titanium status is the highest level that you can get with Marriott easily that will give you the highest odds of premium level upgrades. So below that is Platinum, which technically will get you more suite upgrades as well, but Titaniums will always get first pick over Platinums, and it's not that difficult to go to Titanium if you're already getting Platinum status, so that's why I do recommend going for it. So what does it take to get to Titanium status? It's pretty basic. It's just 75 qualifying nights per year. Now, you may be thinking, I don't stay in a hotel 75 nights, and that's totally fine. You don't actually have to. Now, depending on which cards you have or don't have, you may need to get a couple new cards in the repertoire in order to hit that 75 night qualifying criteria without actually staying 75 nights, but there's a couple key things you want to do. So if you stack the right cards, you can get up to 40 qualifying nights just from holding the right cards. That means you only need 35 nights of actual but in bed nights. And there are many promos throughout the year where Marriott will oftentimes do double night stays. So if you stay 5 nights, it will count for 10. So you definitely want to be on the lookout for those. So if you stack the right 2 cards together, which is going to be a combination of maybe the Amex business card and one of the personal cards, depending on what your preferences are for annual fees and what perks you need, you could combo those differently, but that will get you to 40 nights. If you then actually stay 35 nights in a hotel, you unlocked Titanium status. Now, Titanium status, again, will get priority upgrades compared to the other levels of status, and this is gonna be the play for Marriott. Now, with Hilton, on the other hand, the fast track to status is actually much easier. This is the only program where you can get the top tier elite status just from holding the card, and that's gonna be with the Hilton Aspire card. Now, keep in mind that these premium level cards with different programs are obviously gonna have much higher annual fees. However, if you use the perks from these cards, you are gonna get such a massive return. So with Hilton, for example, that Aspire card does have a pretty high annual fee. However, if you use even half of those perks, you're gonna make at least double that back, especially in the first year, which makes it a no-brainer if you really like Hilton properties. And this is gonna be especially valuable if you're going for the top tier Hilton properties, you know, the Conrads, the Waldorfs, things like that, because that's where these suite upgrades will cost you 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes even up to $10,000 per night at certain properties, and you can start to unlock these with hardly any money out of pocket. So here's the downside to Hilton though. Because it's so easy to get their elite status because you just need to have the card, that means that there's a lot of people out there with Hilton Diamond status that are competing for those upgrades, which means your odds of actually securing the upgrade you want go down. We'll contrast that to Hyatt, where I am now. This is a Park Hyatt property, so clearly it falls under the Hyatt portfolio, where I get consistent upgrades with this program, making it one of my favorite programs to be loyal to, because being a globalist here is, number 1, not that difficult to get, and number 2, really consistent to get amazing upgrades. I think that their customer service is amazing, their upgrade system works really well, but their premium level treatment for globalists is probably my favorite out of the major 3 brands. So depending on how much you stay and how much you spend, you could get status at one of these brands and really just stay loyal, or pick 2. Marriott is gonna have the largest global footprint, so that makes it really nice for that. Hyatt, in my opinion, has the best overall benefits and upgrades and experience, and Hilton is gonna be the easiest. So depending on what you're optimizing for, I recommend picking at least 1, but maybe 2 of those for you. So before I get into the second step, you may be wondering, what are you doing in London and why are you at the Park Hyatt? And that's a great question. I'm gonna answer that while I make tea. You know, I actually don't really drink tea a lot, but as they say, when in London, do as the Brits do. So here we are. So we're in London for about 3 weeks, and this is the middle of my fiance and I's journey of kind of living nomadically for a little bit before we have kids. So we figured it'll be a little bit more difficult to have this nomad chapter. It'll be more trips once we have children. So now is the time to really just go on this kind of endless adventure for the year. And as we've been doing that, we decided to plot some different cities, but because of the Schengen zone requirements in Europe, we had to get out of the EU part and go into the UK for a month. But this has been an amazing stay. Now we're specifically here at the Park Hyatt because we actually have an Airbnb in London, but it is currently the middle of August. And generally London is pretty cool. Like the days are really mild, the nights are really cool. So places without AC that just have fans are actually normal and like super common for Airbnbs or for homes. But the last couple of days has been really hot. And so this was just a really good opportunity to say, you know what, let's just go to one of our favorite hotel brands. Let's go stay at this amazing Park Hyatt. It just opened, by the way, in 2024. And it's absolutely beautiful. It has an incredible spa. A massive gym, like full on, just like gorgeous breakfast. Really nice amenities throughout the hotel and just an overall really nice feel. So we love doing these little kind of mini staycations, even when we're in the middle of, I guess, a bigger vacation, if you wanted to call it that, although we're working. So this just ended up being a perfect redemption for us. When I saw the 30,000 points available, I was like, that is a no-brainer for a Park Hyatt. The base level rooms were going for about £1,000 a night, which is like 1,300 bucks US. And so that alone was already a super killer deal. Then you factor in the upgrade and I was realizing, oh my God, we're using 30,000 points, which for most people is the equivalent of just $300. And we're getting a $3,000 room per night. So that is literally 10x the value on the points, or another way of saying it is I got this room for 90% off by using points. And this is the power of the game, which makes it even more fun when we get to do these stays. So sometimes the stays are just practical out of convenience for us, and sometimes they're just nice little fun add-ons like this that our points unlock for us. So now that you've got some of your status down, let's move on to step number 2, which is going to be to select the right type of room for your booking. The first thing to know is that there are generally 4 different categories of rooms. There's really a 5th category that you can be booking into, and this is gonna be pretty universal across different hotel brands. Now, each brand is gonna have a different type of naming convention for what they call these, and some are standardized, some are not, so it doesn't always universally flow, but there really are 4 categories. So the base level category is just like a standard room. So that's gonna be a king, a twin, a queen, oftentimes maybe a garden view kind of thing. That's just a standard room. It's like the base level room you book into. And if you're using points, this is always gonna be the cheapest available room that you can find. Is just the standard level room. Above that is going to be the premium level room. So this is basically the same kind of stuff. It's not a suite, but it's like the corner room or the larger king or the deluxe king, stuff like that. It just means a little bit more space. You don't really get any other big amenities besides that. And to me, there's not a huge noticeable difference, except for in certain properties where the standard rooms are really small, then the premium rooms can be a little bit nicer to have just for more space. But where you start to get into the dividing line is obviously when you get into the suites. So in the suites, there's gonna be the standard suites and then the premium suites. So the standard suites are generally gonna be things like the junior suite or just like whatever they have for the naming of their suites. You know, for some places it might just be called like the deluxe suite, stuff like that. In most cases, this will probably be a suite that has one main room, not a separate room, or maybe just like a dividing area, but not an entire separate bedroom. Then you get into the premium level suites, and again, depending on the brand, this is where you start to see 1-bedroom suites, suites with kind of fancy names on them, maybe a bi-level suite, 2-bedroom suites, things like that. And above that is going to be a category that you really shouldn't have expectations to unlock when you're using points or status or loyalty or any of these strategies, but that's gonna be like the signature suites. These would be things like the presidential suites or whatever their most high-end premium prestigious suites are. What you wanna do is you wanna be looking at what is the standard rate available. If you're using points, that's where you're gonna lock in that deal. But what you really wanna be paying attention to, especially depending on how far out you're booking, is what are the suites that are available during those dates. So is it just the standard suites that you see available, or do you see some of those premium suites available? And if you have a 2 or 3 or 4 night stay, is it available for one of the nights or all of the nights? Now, what's gonna be a big determinant of this is gonna be seasonality and the dates of which you're going. So for example, you have flexibility on your trip and you could go to a hotel like this, the Park Hyatt in London, from a Friday to a Sunday versus a Sunday to a Tuesday. The Sunday to Tuesday, generally speaking, is gonna have more availability than the weekend. So this is gonna depend on demand, seasonality, all of those factors. But if you look at the different days and you do have flexibility, this can be a big deal. The other thing you can consider is maybe the suite's only available for one night out of the nights you want to go, and you can go ahead and lock that in. And sometimes if you just do a one-night reservation and then have a separate reservation, they will actually just merge them when you stay. All right, and for step number 3, I stepped outside here to enjoy this beautiful park as I explain how you can use your suite night certificates to give you a higher chance of getting the upgrade. Now, this really only works for Marriott and Hyatt. Hilton actually doesn't really have this program. And so if you're using Marriott or Hyatt, this is something you definitely want to take advantage of. Now, first off, how do you unlock these suite night certificates and what are they actually called? It really just depends on the brand. It could be called a suite upgrade award or a suite night award, but it's really a suite night certificate, which is essentially a credit that you get when you unlock certain milestones with the loyalty program that will give you a higher priority of getting an upgrade. So with Hyatt, you'll unlock these at 50 nights and 60 qualifying nights per year. And with Marriott, it's at 50 nights and 75 nights. Now, what's interesting is both what you have to do to unlock them, but also how they actually apply. So with Hyatt, for example, you can apply these pretty early on in the process, and oftentimes they're cleared much earlier. However, sometimes the hotel may change things. So for example, last year when we were in Paris, we stayed at the Park Hyatt Paris, which is a beautiful property. And initially when it cleared, we got upgraded to a really high-end premium suite, which was very lucky. And then about 48 hours before, they downgraded us to a standard suite, which was less optimal, but it was still a great experience. And that's just because I believe someone else must have booked the premium suite and we were only really entitled to a standard suite. We then got there, showed up, did some sweet talking, and ended up getting back into a premium suite later on. But this is kind of what happened. So it is more of an art than just a science for this. Now, with Marriott, for example, you tend to not get these cleared until 1 to 3 days before. So the room that you unlock is generally more likely going to be the room that you get, but you won't know until much later. So they work a little bit differently. Another way they work differently is with Hyatt, you can apply one suite upgrade award to your entire stay. So if you booked 5 consecutive nights, you can apply one suite upgrade award and it will cover up to 7 nights straight. And let's say you had a 2-week stay somewhere, which would be really long, you could apply 2 of them for 14 days and get the entire stay potentially upgraded. With Marriott, however, it's a little bit different. Each certificate is only 1 night. So you do unlock different numbers. So like with Hyatt, for example, you'll only unlock 2 suite upgrade awards at these milestones. And with Marriott, you'll unlock 5. So overall, you're still getting to cover several nights. And for most travelers, that's plenty of nights to get what you need. Now, I want to remind you, this does not guarantee you to get a suite upgrade. And it also definitely does not guarantee that you get a premium suite. For that, you're going to want to leverage some of the other strategies that I'm sharing here. Okay, so step number 4 is probably my favorite step because this is all about the art of the schmooze, baby. Now, this is where you're going to reach out and find an actual human to connect with that can help override any sort of system upgrades and give you the exact thing that you want. They are, if it's a premium hotel, they're probably really trained around creating raving fan experiences, like really wowing clients, but you want to put them in a position to showcase you as an opportunity for them to do that and make it really easy for them. A couple tips for this is number 1, you want to look at the hotel and figure out, like, is it the marketing department, the PR department? Is there someone at the front desk that you can talk to? And you really want to build a connection. You want to ask their name. You know, you want to be a fresh hit of energy in their day when you're talking to them because you're just breaking up probably the monotony that they normally feel in an everyday experience. So after that, if there's any sort of special occasion that you can leverage, it's a celebration trip, an anniversary trip, it's a getaway after something, a big milestone that you're celebrating, leverage whatever you can to give them a reason to want to give you that upgrade. And the last thing that I love to leverage is from Chris Voss, the author of Never Split the Difference, who's a former FBI hostage negotiator. And one of the things he always talks about is called going for no. So this is a negotiation strategy where instead of just asking for the thing you want, which can put someone on the defensive and feel like either they give it to you, but it wasn't really their choice, or they have to say no and disappoint you, you go for no. So instead of saying, hey, can I get this suite upgrade? You might say, hey, look, so I'm taking my fiance to this place. She's been dreaming of this hotel for such a long time. This is a big celebration trip because we just did X, Y, or Z. And what I was wondering, it's probably too crazy to consider getting an upgrade into this room, right? And phrasing it something like that, where you're going to say, like, probably no chance that we'd be able to get upgraded to that, right? Like, that's too big of an ask, isn't it? And that way, if it is, they don't have to feel awkward or no saying no to you, and they can also feel like the hero and make your day by actually giving you the upgrade that you're asking for. Baby, how much do you enjoy a 5-star suite?
I love it.
And what's the difference to you between a standard room and a suite?
I love having a suite because number 1, there's more space. Usually the amenities are nicer. Like we have this insane clawfoot 8-foot tub in the bathroom. It just feels more like a mini apartment than it does living in a one-room studio.
You've experienced some pretty cool suites in the last couple of years. What's been some of your favorites?
The first one that I'll never forget was when we were in New York City. So Eli wasn't there with me. I got to the hotel first and he had no clue. This wasn't a planned upgrade. So I go to check in. They said, we've upgraded you to the presidential suite. And I laughed because I thought they were joking. And then the guy got kind of snippy and was like, no. He goes, do you know how much that goes for a night? I was like, no, I'm just a girl. I have no idea. And then they walked me up to the room and I literally couldn't stop laughing. It was the most insane room I had ever seen.
But what was funny is the next morning I called down, checkout was at noon. I was like, look, let's just keep it easy on both of us. We'll just stay here. You don't even have to bring in the maids. We'll just stay in the room. They're like, yeah, that's awesome. You need to be out in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, fine. Any final words for the people about suites?
I love them. Gotta have them. I don't expect them, but when they happen, pretty amazing.
So let's dive in to step number 5, which is to automate, systemize, and delegate. Now, I am very intentionally wearing a bathrobe, lounging right now. Well, for 2 reasons. Number 1, travel should be fun. This is really part of my brand. I really like enjoying travel for the levity, for the exploration, for the adventure, for the fun part of it. But also, I'm doing this because this step is all about creating the freedom that you want to have inside of your business and leveraging team members, leveraging systems that you can set up so that you can enjoy the fruits of your labor. The key here is that you want to have an assistant who gets trained up on how to do this, whether you train them on your own or you send them off to read a bunch of articles online, or you use a system like ours, like we have the CEO Points playbook that you can grab down below, or you could get access to our services and community by clicking below to check out some of those options. I know all of this stuff. I know everything about loyalty programs and credit card points and the best deals, but when it comes to actually booking travel, all I do is I send a voice note to my assistant of the flight or the hotel I want. She knows how to look into it. She knows how to research it. And she's ultimately the one doing all the booking, calling the hotels, all that stuff. Now, I've talked to thousands of business owners about this, and most are great at delegating, but delegating travel has been one that feels very scary for them because how preferential they are. So you really want to make sure that your assistant learns over time and knows your preferences. This is something, again, that we've helped hundreds of assistants with, so it's very commonplace. And if you're not doing this now, I highly recommend it. And if you don't have an assistant, you should absolutely get one. I love the quote, if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant. And so there are so many things beyond travel that you should be delegating out of your business, or even if you don't have a business, you should be delegating as well, because there are people that would be probably better at them, have higher attention to detail, higher follow through, are looking for leadership, want a great job, and they will do this for a fraction of what it would cost for you to spend your time to do it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And to recap the 5 key steps. So number 1 is to unlock top tier elite status so that you can get the best possible upgrades from your status. Number 2 is going to be to make sure you understand the room categories and what's available and that you're booking the right room. Number 3 is going to be to maximize your Sweet Night awards or Sweet Night certificates. Number 4 is going to be to leverage the art of the schmooze and to go out and reach out and do your magic with communicating and influence. And then number 5 is going to be to delegate this to someone on your team to handle as much of it as possible for you so you can get the benefits with the least amount of time. So I hope you enjoyed this. Go ahead and check out more of the resources down below if you want more help or if you want to hand things to your assistant. And I hope to see you in the next video.